A client since 2023 sent me this email. We've moved version 2.0 from Bubble to Next.js. I asked which agency he used. He rebuilt it himself. This app had Stripe, multi-tenancy, OpenAI, email sequences, a whole bunch of stuff. He had built it in 2 months using AI with zero coding experience. For those new here, I run a gold Bubble agency and we've done 100 plus projects in Bubble over the past 5 years. This hit hard. I think this was the best thing that happened to our agency. I spent 6 months and more than $10,000 testing everything. Our AI token bills alone run more than 600 a month. I found the production stack that actually works, not demos or toy visuals, real client production grade work. We're using it daily and migrating 3 of our large projects to this stack now. I'll show you the complete stack, how we handle security, and what the learning pathway is. Let's dive in. So I wrote this whole 28-page guide on this. I'm going to walk through and explain the key points in this video. You can have a link to the guide in the description below as well. The hardest part, I think, is the mindset shift. It's really hard to become a beginner again. Remember my first day with Bubble? There was no clue about relational databases, privacy rules, API workflows, but I had the beginner mindset. Now, after 5 years, it felt safe. We had a decent portfolio, some marketing, some messaging, some internal training, a whole bunch. Everything was Bubble, Bubble, Bubble. And it's hard to look in the mirror and say, okay, I need to start over and everything needs to change. So somebody using AI will take over us. The hardest part is where to even start. Python, Ruby, JavaScript, there's just a whole bunch of buzzwords. I don't know enough about them. And there was definitely a sense of paralysis. So it does take time. And I'm trying to condense everything, all the learning into this video. So not everything is doom and gloom, okay? We know systems engineering. We know 80% of what matters as Bubble developers or as no-code developers. Database design, how relationships work, what needs to be secure more, where to look for it, business logic and workflows, user experience and product thinking. So we know a whole bunch of stuff and all of that skill is transferable. What we don't know is what framework to use. I'll tell you. Where to host it. Well, I'll tell you. How everything fits together. It's definitely harder than Bubble. Bubble is a full stack platform. Everything's tightly integrated. But in the new world, well, we have to adapt. Okay. So it is soul crushing sometimes. Sometimes I do wish, oh, why are we doing this? But 90% of the transition is in the mindset. Okay. The product skills, which are extremely valuable, transfers over. The architectural skills transfer over. Business logic transfer over. So a whole bunch transfers over. And what doesn't? AI is getting so good now that it'll fill those gaps quickly. And in some cases, we actually have an advantage from traditional coding developers. And the advantage is because we are in no code, we're just more full stack. We're more than full stack developers. We have product and business knowledge alongside the tech stack knowledge. So there is a certain level of distinct advantage that we have. We're more broad, okay? The analogy I like to give is like the front-end developer. He only knows CSS, HTML, JavaScript, and front-end. Whereas us as no-code developers, we know the whole stack. And in the world of AI, I think the breadth is a lot more important. You need some depth as well, okay? But AI can fill a lot of that depth. But the breadth is very important. The systems thinking we get from no code is really good. So now there are really 2 paths forward, okay? So we don't have a drop-in replacement of Bubble in the world of code. Bubble gives like the front end, back end, database, auth, storage, hosting, version control, staging, everything. It's very hard to find an all-in-one. The only one that is closest to this is Replit. Okay, it's an all-in-one platform with an AI agent, an editor, a deployment, infrastructure, 25 a month starting, but the token cost can start racking up. It's really good and I highly recommend it. However, I do have some reservations for us as an agency to go with Replit. One of them would be potentially a bit of vendor lock-in. We're slightly shy of vendor lock-in after being locked into Bubble for so long. Philosophically, there's the Swiss Army knife option. Oh, Bubble's a Swiss Army knife. I need another Swiss Army knife. Or there's, okay, I don't need one tool with everything. I want a separate hammer, a separate knife. I want a separate front end, a separate back end, a separate auth, everything separate. And I want the best in class on all of them. I want to know how all of them fit together and work together. We went down this route. I'm documenting our entire migration journey, every win, every mistake, every piece of learning. Subscribe if you want to see how this plays out in production. The other approach is the professional toolbox. I want specialized, best-in-class tools for front-end, back-end, auth, hosting, IDE, and I want to own the entire stack as well. For us as an agency, for production-grade stuff, I went down this route. If you're starting out, I'm more than happy to recommend Replit as a starting out. What about Board, Lovable, VNot? I did try all of them. They're okay for the first 5-10 minutes. After a few hours, then you're like, okay, I don't think I can get to production ready where I'm like, okay, satisfied and happy. This thing won't break in production level. It's good to get from like 0 to 0.5. And then you're like, okay, take over into like Cursor, Cloud Code, whatever, and then fix the rest, everything there. But not really recommended for our use case, apart from like, prototyping and demos. But we want to build the whole thing. So what I'm about to show next, it's okay to feel overwhelmed. Don't worry, I'm planning a whole YouTube playlist on this is how X is done in Bubble and this is how X is done in this new tech stack. The reason being is for us to learn. We've gone through this journey and I'm happy to relay and share as much as I can. I'm definitely sharing a lot in the Idea to App School community as well. There's some lots of interesting live Q&As and conversations happening there, but a YouTube playlist is on the way as well. Okay, so front end. So within the world of code, there's two pathways, okay? You can get batteries included or a traditional stack like Python Django, Ruby on Rails, Laravel PHP. They're battle tested and in production for a long time. My slight beef with them is that, then you need two languages. You need to understand Python, Django, and JavaScript because the web runs on JavaScript. You need to understand Ruby, Rails, and JavaScript because front end is on JavaScript. You need to understand PHP, Laravel. So this has a dual language and framework challenge in terms of skill gap. It's hard. It's a lot of work to upskill, even with AI teaching everything. The other thing is the trend line. Okay. On Google Trends, if I put Django, Ruby on Rails, Next.js, it's not like it's crashing or anything. It's just a slow decline happening. So these frameworks are not gonna go away or anything. It's just Next.js is in a slightly rising trend line. And you always want to be on a slightly rising trend line when you want to fix stacks. The best part is it's one language like Node.js. So it's front end and middleware, back end. It's all JavaScript. I was like, okay, it's a single language, better, a single ecosystem, and a slightly rising ecosystem as well. So those reasons were where we decided to go towards Next.js as a whole. There's a few other JavaScript frameworks, Vue, React, and a whole bunch of terms that I don't understand. We went with Next because of this graph and a bunch of Twitter chatter. Next comes database or backend. Now you can go, okay, I want a database, PostgreSQL database, AWS S3 for file storage. Well, Clerk is pretty good. Clerk, Auth0, Okta for authentication. These are separate database, separate file storage, separate auth. Yes, but there are definitely backend as a service. This is as well. There's Xano, quite popular in the world of Bubble. Firebase, convex.dev, almost went with convex.dev. It's got a really nice approach, which I think if it was a slightly more mature and larger ecosystem, would have possibly gone with convex.dev. But yeah, we went with Supabase. Okay. Supabase has a very relational Bubble-like Postgres database. Authentication, there's a whole bunch of infrastructure around auth for it. And it also has file storage as well. So we will knock out three things in one platform. And it's got a great dashboard, which is quite easy to understand. And yeah, it is missing one thing, which is okay, what about background jobs? It has edge functions, but what about I want to send an email 3 days later? Okay. Doing that with Supabase gets a bit tricky. And for that, we added trigger.dev. Okay. Trigger.dev is a background job schedule runner and it's serverless. It's quite nice in completing the overall Bubble equivalent tech stack. Bubble gives us a lot out of the box and it all works together. Combining all of these together takes a little bit of a while, but once they're all working, you're like, oh, this is best in class and it's super fast and really good. Then comes hosting. If this is saving you months of research, hit that like button. It genuinely helps other devs find this. Okay. One of the most popular platforms for hosting Next.js is Vercel because Vercel makes Next.js or sponsors Next.js. Technically, Next.js is an open source project. But I remember the workload unit problem where you have unknown pricing can happen or something goes viral and the Vercel suffers from unknown pricing problem. I don't want to be talking to clients and I'm like, oh, how much will it cost to host? I'm like, I don't know. It could cost 25 and it could cost 2,500. We can make a mistake and it can cost spiky bill or something can happen. Not a fan of that approach. Tried DigitalOcean, Fly, Render, AWS. But it's just these boys are so complicated. We ended up with railway.com. It's really good. You just relatively simple dashboard to understand. Push the code to GitHub. It just deploys. Okay. No Docker knowledge needed, and no, you can easily just like, oh, this is 20 a month or 5 a month or whichever container scaled up, down. And it just like, it was nice. Okay. Usage-based pricing, just not a fan of that. There are some various other bits like GitHub for code storage. The others are fine as well, no issues, but GitHub just connects with everything. Cursor, Windsurf, VS Code, they're all eerily similar now. VS Code is free, so you just use that. Analytics, post-hog analytics and logging will go there. Security, hot topic, wipe coding is insecure. Wipe planning and wipe engineering can result in a secure product. So my easiest approach with security is get an expert. Okay, we have a contractor, we ask them to review every pull request. It's been a couple of months with this, and after a few months, the whole team, myself included, have got a sense of like, okay, what can be secure and what is insecure. So for example, with Supabase, just don't use the service role key. That's easy. That service role key is like, the ignore privacy rules tick box in Bubble. Just if you don't use it, okay, that's one aspect of security. The other is RLS policies. Once you get the hang of how they work, which is quite similar to Bubble privacy rules, you're like, okay, you know what? If the RLS policies are fine, the page redirects are fine, and we're not using the service role key, it's very hard to get it. Like, I mean, you have to intentionally tell Claude to make mistakes and leave doors open. With that being said, of course, generally for code, you need to maintain it. You're owning the whole infrastructure as well, and you're owning the responsibility of updating the packages and keeping things secure. Okay. Anything infrastructure related, Bubble handled, and we were just not worried about. All we would do is complain on the Bubble forum when it went down. Here, well, Supabase can have outages, Railway can have outages, you can make mistakes, so you are owning a bunch of stuff. But I think it's better. AI is helping so much. It's Claude 4.5 right now. When it's Claude 9, it'll just smash everything out of the water. So do I need to learn to code? What is the learning pathway? I actually am starting to code quite a bit, but I actually don't need to read JavaScript. Does somebody need to learn to code? What is the learning pathway here? I actually think learning JavaScript is not the learning pathway here, okay? As models get better, this will fade even more. The thing to understand is you don't need syntax. I actually don't know what this is, okay? I can read, oh, it's fetching some API or there's some JSON response. But I don't understand and I cannot write this stuff. This stuff may be wrong, I don't know. But I need to know how to guide AI correctly. Create an API endpoint, fetch user data, just basic stuff. Claude Code is getting to the point where it's like, it just gets you. You just have to be very careful around steering it. You just have to know how to steer it and what questions to ask. It's the same with anything. Like in ChatGPT, if you ask it, I want an article. Well, what article? Okay, I want a 300-page article on how to go from Bubble to Next.js. That's very different. You have to be very precise and you have to know how to chat GPT or how to prompt your way ahead in most cases. And it's a skill. A lot of the Bubble no-code skills transfer. Database, workflows, privacy rules. Fundamentally, under the hood, Bubble isn't some magical world or anything. Under the hood, it is the same Postgres, API routes and all of that. It's just abstracted in an English language. Now the abstraction is Claude Code in the English language. It's not that different once you know how things stick together. And my honest truth, I think, is in 2 weeks, you start feeling a bit productive and confident. 4 weeks, you're like, okay, you can do this. 6 weeks later, you will not look back. The hardest part isn't learning. It's the confidence. And it's like, oh, real code is hard. Yes, I actually don't know how software engineers operated before AI. That is wizard magic. If you're interested in learning more, the best starting point will be a 70-minute crash course. The link will appear here. It covers setting up the environment, understanding the stack, building with AI, and deploying your first app, a simple waitlist page, and erase that fear. And you don't have to go through this alone. I've got an idea to app school community. There's about 100 of us navigating through this transition. And I've got a complete SaaS build in the classroom section as well here, which walks you from a blank page to a full build. And if you want to join us in the school community, link in the description below. We've got live weekly Q&A calls, and we're sharing a lot while we migrate 3 production apps from Bubble to this new stack. I'll see you on the other side. Thanks. Bye.